I would say Safe Haven is actually like a dark comedy. Like in my head, like I think this should be a dark comedy because like at the end of the day, like you have a freaking goat-headed demon coming out of a woman's belly.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Hey, John from Nerd Reactor. Did I say North? Sorry, man.
Nord,
How are
yeah.
you, dude?
That'd be funny. The Nord reactor, yeah.
Oh, no.
But so okay, so you've done some just crazy films in the past. For example, The Night Comes for Us, known for the just the brutality. And so I was wondering, how do you compare that style of violence, and then what can audiences for Nobody to expect from the violence here?
Right. Well, I guess here's the thing. One one thing in common when it comes to Night Comes for Us and Nobody Two is I think both explore the theme of not toxic, sorry, like I would say flawed masculinity, you know, and by that I mean like is men tend to solve their problems with fists, not knowing that that might not be the smartest sort of like the smartest option for them, and I think there's a similarity between our protagonist Ito in Night Comes for Us and Hutch Mansell in this film. They're both instinctively thinking that violence is the way that I'm going to solve it. The difference is that while The Night Comes for Us definitely, explore that violence will only kind of spirals down to more violence, like which is true, like that's the whole point. Like in the end, like a good heart, but like from somebody who only knows violence will result in death all around him. While with this one, obviously, I'm making a movie. Well, yeah, this has to be fun. This is a movie about a guy who's trying to make the best with his kids, with his wife. I don't want to make a freaking Cormac McCarthy version of Nobody. Like I wanna make something where in the end they still ride into the sunshine. Yes, it's still there's still some hardships in between, but at the same time, you have to feel like there is something hopeful about it, and therefore automatically the set pieces become yes violent and punchy, but at the same time hopefully they're not traumatizing, and they can be wacky at times, like getting your finger eaten by a fish, for example, like that's
Yeah, yeah.
like, but like again, like I said, it has to be playful, and again, maybe a lot of that also comes from stems from trying to make the style a bit different from the first film, so that we are not replicating greatness.
No, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And in this movie, the Matrix, the John Wick films, nobody has Daniel Bernhardt. He's like
He's like our
either
go-to-go guy, man.
yeah, the go-to guy. So nobody two, different character, and John Wick two, he's played different characters. And so I was wondering for this one, how do you go about the different character for him in this movie that's compared to the other one, the first one?
Well, there's a funny story that like we keep on making kind of like this subplot for him. Hey, like in the first Nobody, like how his character actually didn't die. Maybe we can tell a story where he didn't die, but like he kind of like become this other person. Like he's still on the straying path. Like he didn't repent at all. Like he still feel like, all right, the criminal life is for me, but he's gonna change his persona. He named himself Cartouche, somebody from East Europe, to become Landina's heavy. Like, and like maybe when he sees Hutch, he kind of recognized this guy, but like he doesn't want to say anything. Like because like oh yeah, that's the guy who beats me from in the bus a while ago. But in the end, like I think here's the thing: Daniel Bernhardt is such a muse for Bob, and by extension, the 87 North family. You know, so I think from the moment like we kind of like sit down and like kind of like deciding like who's playing what character, we all know that like what, we gotta involve Daniel Bernhardt in it. Plus, here's the thing: Daniel Bernhardt, I think, is the second person who knows what Bob's he's the closest person to know what Bob's capable of. Like he knows Bob's regime, he knows how Bob fight, he knows how Bob kicks, punch. And look, man, I think Bernard is such a positive guy that you feel like the set will be much better because of him. Like I remember those days at 2 a.m. in the morning when we are shooting when we are shooting the final action set pieces. I'll be like freezing cold in Winnipeg at 2 a.m. in the morning shooting that water slide stuff, and Bernhard will come to my tent and like, hey Timo, here's your almond banana shake. Like he makes those smoothies and all that stuff. So Bernhard's a blessing, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah. And it's because you come from different, like all different types of genres. One of them that a lot of fans know you from, like the horror stuff, the VHS stuff with Safe
Right.
Haven. And I want to ask you about that. If you remember, like just the first time, just being on the set for that, what was that like? And did you know how the fan reaction was going to be like afterwards?
You mean like for Safe Haven?
Yeah, Safe Haven. Yeah.
Oh man, at the time, I don't think we think about that kind of stuff at all. I think it's just, here's the thing. Like I can tell you a bit with Safe Haven. Safe Haven. So basically, me and Gareth, like we always were looking for something to collaborate on. Gareth wants to dip his toes into the horror genre, and I do feel like, you know what, working with Gareth will be a learning, something where I can learn a lot. And he did taught me a lot about like camera and all that stuff. So at the time, I think initially we were going to do a film about the whole, like based on the Brian Jonestown massacre. But we all sat there, like we researched some stuff about Brian Jonestown, and we heard that very dark and chilling tape, and quickly we just went to like, you know what, this is just gonna depress the hell out of everybody. So I kind of went back to the writing board, and I kind of wrote like a much more absurd version of that. Actually, I would say Safe Haven is actually like a dark comedy. Like in my head, like I think this should be a dark comedy because like at the end of the day, like you have a freaking goat-headed demon coming out of a woman's belly. So like we were just thinking, let's do something crazy because this is one of the few chances where we are allowed to do whatever we want. In the VHS series is always like that, and we never thought like how people gonna respond to it so positively. So hey man, I'm thankful for that experience. That was what, uh, Jesus, that was like 15 years ago or something. So it's weird like how far away already that was.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
And I guess my last question for you, I just want to know about because your background in action, horror, and also comedy. How does that help you with Nobody too? That also has action and comedy and maybe a little bit of horror with the fish in the finger.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in line to what I usually do. I think I was very comfortable regarding like how we're gonna portray the violence there. Like like it's all about like adjusting like how much violence do we want? Like do we go this much, or do we kind of pull back the curtain a bit? The same with the comedy. Again, working with Bob or as somebody as funny. John Ortiz, another surprisingly funny guy, and Christopher Lloyd, definitely. He's the master of improvising all his lines and just like go crazy, go nuts with it. I think it's more about like, okay, how do I learn something new in this film? And I think I do appreciate how much Bob emphasized on the drama of it all. What's very important to him is actually like that people get that this is essentially a movie about family. And from that first day, we are sitting there and we kind of like shooting that stuff about the family and how Hutch is slowly losing his family as he's delving deep into his old ways. And I when I saw it on screen, I was like, wow, this is really something that a lot of people can relate to, including myself. Because as somebody with two girls, like I definitely felt that like as the more I kind of get deep into my work, the more I feel like there's a push where my kids are slowly kind of like losing another version of me because like how consumed by work I am. And it turns out that I'm just learning a lot from that aspect. Uh, again, the violence, the creativity in the choreo and all that stuff, that's all good stuff. But like, I feel this is precious to me because I do learn that sometimes good drama and good action kind of comes side to side, side by side, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right, Timo. Just thanks a lot for taking the time for doing the interview, and I can't
Thank
wait
you.
for everyone else to watch the movie when it comes out.
Thank you very much.